And at the first show, that was in 1874, it was a painting by Claude Monet, which is called Impression Sunrise. And that painting was the one that an art critic basically said that, oh, this is from this movement called the Impressionism or the Impressionist movement. Hi, this is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. Today we're going to talk a little bit about Impressionism, in particular, who started the Impressionist movement. There can sometimes be a lot of confusion that there might be people who kind of feel like, well, did Vincent van Gogh start it or Claude Monet? Those usually tend to be the two names that come up. Well, the truth is that it was Claude Monet who started the Impressionism movement. It was in 1847 when there's a group of artists got together and they called themselves the Anonymous Society of Painters, Sculptors, and Printmakers. This group decided to organize their own exhibition in Paris because they weren't really happy with a lot of the things that were happening in Paris at the time. There was a big show called the Salon, and they weren't happy with the way the show was being judged and other things. So they decided, we're going to do our own show. And at the first show, that was in 1874, it was a painting by Claude Monet, which is called Impression Sunrise. And that painting was the one that an art critic basically said that, oh, this is from this movement called the Impressionism or the Impressionist movement. And that's where the name came from. And that's why Claude Monet is known to be one of the founders of the Impressionist movement, because he was one of the founders of this group, and he has always has been and is one of the key players of the Impressionism movement. The work of the Impressionists started then from this point on to become more widely accepted, and eventually they became accepted into many of these prestigious shows. Vincent van Gogh also lived during the same time as Claude Monet. They knew each other, they knew of each other, they knew each other's work. They, in particular, they both, Claude Monet worked with Vincent's brother Theo. And so, they really did know each other. But Vincent van Gogh is not considered to be an Impressionist painter. He is in an era which is known as the Post-Impressionist. And the Post-Impressionist was considered to be a creative shift of the time from the Impressionist movement. They sort of broke away from the Impressionist movement and they built upon it. And that name really didn't come about until 1911. This was, long after Vincent van Gogh had passed away. He passed away in 1890. And so, that this name Post-Impressionism began to be, titled with his art and with his name. So Post-Impressionism is really important because it sort of became the link between the Impressionist movement and the modern art. And that's why, artists like Vincent van Gogh, and Vincent van Gogh in particular, is known to be an influential artist that sort of helped develop the Expressionism movement in modern art. And he helped, develop many of these other art movements. What's interesting about this was that Vincent van Gogh really, admired Claude Monet. And he understood what a great painter Claude Monet was, and he understood the power of the Impressionist. He just didn't paint like them. He just wanted to build upon what they were doing. In a letter to his brother Theo, he wrote this about Claude Monet. To paint figures like Claude Monet paints landscapes. That what remains to be done, despite everything and before necessary. One sees only Monet among the Impressionists. So he saw Monet as really one of the key Impressionists, one of the most important Impressionists that were around. And at the same time, Claude Monet also admired Vincent van Gogh. In fact, he had a painting, had shows in some paintings that his brother did. It was in 1890. And his Theo wrote to him and said, Monet said that your paintings were the best in the exhibition. So, they were two artists that sort of painted very differently, had very different styles. They had very different colors, but they knew of each other and they appreciated each other. But it definitely is Claude Monet who started Impressionism, and Vincent van Gogh is considered to be a post-impressionist. This is Anita from 5 Minutes with Art. You can find out more about these artists by reading the blog post we've written, which is called Who did Vince Van Gogh or Monet start the Impressionist movement? You can find more details and information in that blog. Also, check out our blog, Anita Louise Art. We'd love having you be part of our community. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or any comments, we'd like to thank you for listening to us, and also thank Rico for helping make this podcast possible by putting it all together. Thank you so much.